Welcome back. Session having after lunch is actually a challenge for the speakers and the chairpersons. Okay, so before we start, एक दोन तीन गोष्टी बेसिकली मला तुमच्याबरोबर शेअर करायच्यात. द आय कार्ड विच वी आर वेअरिंग, ओके, सो दिस पर्टिक्युलर आय कार्ड त्याची जी लिनियार्ड आहे, सो दिस इज बायोडिग्रेडेबल, ओके, and this particular startup that was incubated in at Bhide Foundation. So तुमच्या आय कार्डवर पण त्याचं नाव लिहिलेलं असेल. सो द नेम इज वी वेक इंडिग्रीन प्रायव्हेट लिमिटेड. So this was incubated at Bhide Foundation and this is developed here. Another thing, when you must have gone to wash your hands after lunch, so तो जो hand wash होता, that particular company that also is incubated in Bhide Foundation, and that is ecologically sustainable hand wash. That's what is prepared. Earlier we also mentioned about the gift which we are giving to the our guests. So त्या gift मध्ये एक आपण plantlet देतोय. That plantlet टिश्यू कल्चरने आपण इथे तयार केलेले, म्हणजे त्यांची जी कंपनी आहे त्यांचं जे स्टार्टअप आहे, they do it. So that is done here. And along with that त्याच्याबरोबर एक खताची छोटीशी बॉटलसुद्धा आपण त्यांना देतो आहे, ज्याच्यामध्ये की सगळं बायोलॉजिकली सस्टेनेबल हे असेल असं अशा पद्धतीचं ते खत आहे. सो these are the things I wanted to mention and I mean share with you all also. So कारण आपण येस, सो अनदर थिंग वी ऑल्सो हॅव, म्हणजे बाहेर जेव्हा तुम्ही जाल, देर इज अ स्टॉल ऑफ क्रोनो प्रकृती. सकाळपासून वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट क्रोनोबायोलॉजी अँड एव्हरीबडी इज टॉकिंग अबाउट की आपण लाईट म्हणजे लेट नाईट आपण जागू शकतो का, अर्ली मॉर्निंग का, हे का, म्हणजे देर आर सो मेनी अदर टर्म्स ऑल्सो आर युज्ड. सो बेसिकली वी ऑल्सो मस्ट बी हॅव्हिंग द क्युरिओसिटी की अरे आपण कुठल्या टाईपचे आहोत. म्हणजे ठीक आहे, एखाद दिवस जागणं इज ओके, आणि एखाद्या माणसाला कंटिन्युअस झोप न येणं किंवा एव्हरी टाईम वी हॅव दॅट पर्टिक्युलर, म्हणजे तशी आपली जर रचना असेल, सो वी शुड नो इट बाय सायंटिफिकली. सो यू कॅन जस्ट स्कॅन दॅट पर्टिक्युलर QR कोड विच इज देअर, क्रोनो प्रकृती म्हणून नावानी एक हे असेल. So you just can go, you can scan that particular thing, you have to answer some questions, and after that you will understand what is your chrono prakriti. So that thing probably we can do whenever we have time in between. We will go ahead with the next session. So our next session for today, and this is a scientific talk on the theme chronobiology and public health. So definitely whenever we talk about public health, we have to have some doctor with us. So we have renowned doctor of Pune, Dr. Prachee Sathe. So anyways, our speaker definitely he will introduce her. So and we have a speaker as a chairperson, Dr. Naveen Kumar with us. Dr. Naveen Kumar is director at ICMR, National Institute of Virology. So Naveen Kumar sir is basically, he is from Alwar, Rajasthan. He has completed his degrees in veterinary sciences. He has completed his PhD from Veterinary College, Hisar, and Friedrich Loeffler Institute, Germany. He was there under DAD Sandwich PhD program. He also has done postdoctoral fellowship from USA. And also he was a fellow at Edinburgh Medical School, a visiting fellow of Edinburgh Medical School. So Dr. Naveen Kumar joined ICAR as a senior scientist in 2011. He was principal scientist later, and he headed the National Center for Veterinary Types Culture, Hisar. From March 2024, he is in Pune, and he has assumed his role as director of National Institute of Virology. What NIV is doing, that I need not say here, because we all know, and we are here because of the vaccine which NIV had produced during the COVID. So NIV has done the great job during that particular time, definitely. Dr. Naveen Kumar, he is basically, he understands and he likes to work on the virus host interactions. His research has identified several key cellular kinases and epigenetic modifiers. He is pioneer in analyzing drug resistance against host-directed antiviral agents and elucidating their molecular mechanisms. He also has developed a lumpy skin disease virus, and for which he was awarded with many awards as well. He is a recipient of several awards, as I mentioned. So some of them are Award of Excellence in Agriculture Research in 2023, India Animal Health Awards, Commonwealth Professional Fellowship, Societal Innovation Award from the Ministry of Earth Sciences, Government of India, DARD Fellowship, I already mentioned. And he also holds the gold medal for the first place in MVSC during his post-graduation. He has also served as technical advisor to WHO and WOAH on several infectious diseases. I welcome Dr. Naveen Kumar, as well as I welcome Dr. Prachee Sathe. I request Dr. Naveen Kumar sir to come on dais, and you can introduce the speaker for the day.
Good afternoon, everybody. So the name of the session is Chronobiology and Public Health. So we all know that in Ayurveda, they are prescribing the medicine based on time you need to take in the morning or afternoon or when you are sleeping. And many times we have, while working in a lab, so these days we are working on many plant extract, looking at their antiviral activity. So what has happened, so one of the institute, that NITM, they send us some of the plant extract. So they showed excellent antiviral activity. So then we want to pursue it further. So there was a gap of 1 or 2 years in between. So when we, before right away going to the mice studies with the fresh extract, I said that we need to test them again. I said my scientists to please test them again before going to the mice study. So when we tested, it didn't work. No antiviral activity. So then I said maybe repeat one more time, maybe some experimental error. So then we came to know after several discussions. So the plant actually parts that were collected in the first set of experiment, that was in different season, and that they were collected in the second time, that were a different season. So that means time, is very important. So even if you collect maybe in the morning or maybe evening, so there will be some differences as well. So in a mammalian cell there are 25,000 protein coding genes. So they worked, some lot of signaling pathways are there, many proteins they are interacting. So the outcome maybe in the morning, all the 25,000 proteins they are behaving in the morning, and what the end result in the evening, afternoon is different. So it established that the plants, humans, so they behave differently, Their metabolites, their immune system, their other biological parameters. So it's not identical if you take in the different time in a day. So but the surprising thing is that the viruses are also like that. So being a virologist, so as of today, all the antiviral drugs that are available is being used, all based on targeting cellular viral proteins. So means the molecules is binding with the viral protein. So what happens over the time? So the virus get mutation at the drug binding site and become resistant. So they are very fragile, keep changing the proteins. So we all know that this is not something new. So then, for example, for flu, the first drug came in 1960s, amantadine. So it became resistant. So the molecule was targeting the M2 ion channel protein of the virus that helped virus release once inside the cells. Then in 90s, new class of drug, neuraminase inhibitor called Tamiflu. Again, it became resistant. So that means if you are your drug is based on disrupting the function of the viral protein, so then virus is going to get mutation and become resistant. So then there was new thought process started about 2 decades ago. So if we are going to develop an antiviral drug based on the targeting the viral proteins, we are not going to succeed. So then it was the thought process was we can target some of the cellular proteins that are dispensable for the host. So as I told you, there are 25,000 proteins. So some of the proteins, they are dispensable, means if you hit these cellular proteins, so cell may have some bypass pathway, but is very critical for the virus, called as host directed antiviral therapy. So these kind of drugs, they are in preclinical development, or some of them they have been approved in the cancer. So then that means if you are for viruses, so if you are not hitting directly to the virus, you are hitting the cellular proteins. So it's not possible for the virus to develop the resistance, right? Because you indirectly. So then the viruses are very smart. So my lab has been pioneer in doing that. So we propagated the virus, passage, we called as passage. If you infect the cells and then collect the virus, it takes few days, 1 week or something. So one passage. So we take a host directed antiviral drug and make a passage 50-60 times, and we did at least 7-8 different experiments. So it take about 1 to 1.5 years. So the virus was in continuous culture in presence of the drug, presence or absence of the drug. So what we have observed is that virus even become resistant to the drugs that based on targeting the cellular proteins. Although the time taken to become resistant, it was much higher as compared to your drug that are directly based on hitting the viral proteins. So chronobiology, what I want to communicate to you, so then we sit and decide what is the mechanism, how it's possible. So you are hitting a cellular protein and virus is become resistant, how it's possible. So then we actually hypothesize 3 things. One is that the virus needs one cellular protein to effectively replicate. So if you are continuously selecting, so it switch to use different cellular proteins, similar protein or maybe some related protein. So switch to use alternate cellular protein. So that we have experimentally demonstrated. The second initially virus is highly dependent on the cellular proteins, and then once it become resistant, very small amount of protein is required. So we have also generated some experimental evidence for this, increases affinity towards the substrate. Or third is chronobiology. So what virus is doing? Virus is replicating at times when the drug concentration is lowest. So as of now, we don't have the experimental proof. This is just a hypothesis. So with this, I'm sorry I have taken a little more time. I was just allowed to introduce, but just to So I welcome Dr. Prachee Sathe. So she is currently professor in critical care medicine department of CCM, DY Patil Medical College, and she has been the founder director department of critical care medicine at Ruby Hall Clinic in Pune, and consultant physician. So she did her MBBS and MD from BJ Medical College. She also FRCP London, FCCCM Fellow of College of Critical Care Medicine. She trained in UK on international fellowship from Royal College in Physics, Physician, Edinburgh, for comprehensive training in critical care medicine. She came back to India in 1991 with the idea to develop a world-class comprehensive ICU setup. He started 4-bedded ICU, which is now 55-bedded at Ruby Hall Clinic. She is also the founder director of the same and treated more than 30,000 ICU patients. She first full-time ICU physician, intensivist in Pune and Maharashtra. She is the founder member and ex-vice president of Indian Society of Critical Care Medicine, contributed in many national and international conferences and papers. She is also executive member, Critical Care Education Foundation, ex-president for College of Critical Care Medicine, recognized teacher for DNB Critical Care Medicine, Diploma in Critical Care, ISCCM, International Critical Care Fellowship, and CCEF and MUHF Fellowship in Intensive Care. So she has been awarded extensively by many societies, and she has been doing the remarkable work during the COVID-19 as well, for which she also got many awards. Also trustee Air India Foundation Pune project Khula Asman for Child, and is the council member Deccan Education Society Pune. So there are many more things to tell. I think we all know that. So with these words, I actually invite ma'am to please deliver your talk. Thank you very much.
We will start with this short video, which will perhaps enhance what I want to put forward to you. Sound ahega? So this is about a person who is now 93 years old, and this was his routine during COVID times. So after waking up in the morning and his morning routines, there used to be a time for exercise. Following which he would do some gardening. He would collect the flowers. Then his morning times for prayers and puja at home. This is on the terrace where he would always expose himself to sunlight. And you can see the way he is able to bend and do everything and maintain his alertness. Then was the time for his own studies, doing some reading. Then there used to be so many commitments. He would check regularly his emails. He will respond to his emails within 24 hours. And then his own writing, his commitments to write articles, checking news, because that was the time when newspapers were not available during COVID. You can see the precision. He would study his favorite subjects. He would participate in online meetings. So these were certain time slots of the day he would follow. He would make his own afternoon tea, and he would communicate with people. Again, the catching up with daily news and daily course. Rest of the gardening, meeting his plants, and then in the afternoon, a 45-minute walk around the building, because he couldn't go out. Now he goes out. So I think this was a short glimpse in how a chronobiologically tuned in lifestyle could be, and how it has translated in the longevity, alertness, and complete state of health. two things which are not shown in this is an afternoon siesta and timely bedtime at night. So everything together probably has worked extremely well for maintaining the health. And ultimately, what is the meaning of our lives and what do we want to achieve during this human life which we have got? So ultimately, it is the meaningfulness, health and longevity in this life. All our survival instincts which have been given to us by nature are for these purposes. And that is why I really thank Bhide Foundation to have invited me for this conference on chronobiology from the perspective of public health. I thank Shreya for assisting me for making the slides because this was like running against the time. As you know, I work in the ICU and all my life I have worked 24/7. So perhaps I am not the right person to talk about chronobiology and perhaps the person in the video is the right person to talk about chronobiology. But as a doctor and as an ICU physician, I have seen multiple aspects of how these disruptions in chronobiology affect human health individually or in professions or as a society. Next please. Is there, yeah, oh, how nice. Right, anyway, leave it alone. No, first, that one. Okay, but I can talk to you on based on these. The first one, I thought I would like to share my experiences as a human being, as a consulting physician, and as a critical care physician, I thought. So as a medical student, as you know, the medical curriculum is so vast. The sizes of the books are so big. And in first and second year of MBBS, I remember it was a tough race against time. And we, all of us, friends together, would want to stay late night and study. And I could see that we could calculate, okay, we require 6 or 7 hours sleep, but at night we can study better. You have seen since morning the larks and the late. So we would want to study at night that it is quiet and we would want to be alert, and it was just impossible, I tell you. We used to do various things. We would drink tea and coffee and fall off to sleep with open books. And we would try to pinch each other and try to keep awake. We were just 19 years, just entering medical college. And I learned that it is impossible to fight the biology which has been ingrained inside us. And then we tried to fall in line with the natural rhythm. But it was just impossible because medicine is such a branch that we have to answer the night calls, the emergency calls. We used to have, I remember, 7 days in a row night duties and plus do morning rounds and finish the routine work. So during the night duties, I remember when I was a resident, we used to be getting a bed in the emergency department itself. So whenever there is no patient, you can lie down. And then I remember once it was so hectic, we were trying to catch with a few naps. And a sister came to call me to interpret an ECG, and I got up and I started going. Nurse said, no, not that way, doctor, this way you have to go. And then it was such a realization that cognitively we get so hampered when we lack the sleep. And then this was a lifelong challenge which I faced while working in emergency and critical care, that how to train my students and how to tell them so that the patient safety is not compromised. Then there are so many patient experiences also. In initial days when I used to do my general medical practice, one patient came with a fracture to his hand and I was inquiring, how did you meet with an accident? And he said, doctor, I was driving, I was at a signal and I fell off to sleep. And somebody came and actually dodged me. And then that is, doctor, this is not the first time. Multiple times it has happened. And then I started going into his detailed history. And it was very clear that this person had a sleep disorder. So what are these sleep disorders? Basically, when the sleep at night is not deep enough, then the brain doesn't get the adequate theta waves or delta waves or the deep sleep. And then the brain is continuously trying to catch up with that sleep during the day. So whenever you get even a moment free, you fall off to sleep. So I have learned from there to ask a specific history to patients about snoring. So whenever, of course, patients don't answer, they look at their partner to tell whether the person is snoring. And then everybody feels snoring is really very good. It indicates छान डराडोर झोप लागली आहे, and which is not so, because that is actually indicating a lot of obstruction at the upper airway. And during that time, when the breathing is hampered, in fact the oxygen saturations are dropping, carbon dioxides are mounting, and the brain gets woken up because of hypoxia. And that is why the sleep is not at all continuous and the quality sleep. And sleep apnea is a very, very big kind of disorder, more in USA, but we are not far behind, because the lifestyle changes are, we are following them even though we know that they are going wrong. Then there are certain patients who have come and talked about, especially the generation Z, Gen Z. I remember one college boy, or he was just early IT professional passing out from the college. His mother brought him and said, he doesn't eat, see how much weight he has lost, he hardly sleeps. And this is what his routine is, he's continuously on the screen. And I talked to him, of course keeping the mother outside. And I asked him, what is this lifestyle and what you are doing? He said, doctor, I really am sitting all the time in front of the screen. I don't spend so much calories, so I don't take so many calories, and I need alertness. So I drink at least 5 cups of coffee every day. I hardly ever sleep. And then you could see his agitation, his calmness had gone. He couldn't handle his emotional burden. He couldn't handle his emotional responses. So where the Gen Z is going wrong is something which needs to be looked at. The global time work sharing experience is also a horrible one, because we get a lot of IT professionals again who in the morning are working with Australia time, in the evening are working with European time, at night are working with US time. And they are continuously in the same time zone and the same work kind of environment, irrespective of what is happening as a day or night. Elderly people come with a different experience. And they come and say, doctor, I just can't sleep. There is insomnia. I just can't sleep. I wake up at 2 o'clock just because I have to go to the loo, and then I just can't sleep. In the morning till 5 o'clock, I'm tossing in the bed. And this is not a new experience. We also see so many people in the vicinity or in the relations. Why is this happening? And why the biological clock is disrupted in elderly people? So that is another thing which we have to remember, that the natural hormones, you must have heard about melatonin and the normal secretion of melatonin by pineal gland, which is an important hormone, indigenous hormone, to take us gradually to reduced metabolism and towards sleep and towards brain delta waves. So elderly people is a different group. And then lifestyle related disease. You know, these days communicable diseases and non-communicable diseases is one of two major categories which we have to treat as doctors or understand as public health. Communicable diseases were killing larger number of people till recently, or in COVID also we experienced, of course. But it is such a shame to know that India is going to be a capital of diabetes in short while. And why is that happening? Cardiovascular diseases, strokes, diabetes, hypertension, everything is known as lifestyle related diseases. So what is this lifestyle and what exactly is happening? And that is completely related to chronobiology. So I'm really glad that you have chosen this topic for the conference. In last 30 years, when I have been working in the ICU and managing patients in ICU, there are certain experiences in the ICU. Patients who spend 2-3 days in the ICU consistently become completely unaware of the day and night cycle, because there is continuously artificial light there. Activity level but 24/7 is almost the same in the ICU. You cannot see the calendar, you cannot see the watch or clock, and you don't know what is the lighting outside. So we have made it a point, and it is recommended internationally, that the ICU should have windows, proper windows where they can see outside. So what happens to them? So they have completely lost the chronobiology, and then they become hallucinating. Somebody is coming, somebody is doing something to me. They don't recognize their people. Some entity that is called as ICU delirium that happens. And ICU delirium is a big challenge for all of us to deal with or to treat these patients. And one of the most important thing is to take them to a room where they can actually see the day and night and the changes in the daylight. In elderly people, in ICU people, there is one more thing. On my morning rounds, for patients who are conscious and recovering, my first question is, hello, how are you? How did you sleep? And they get very irritated. I couldn't sleep. There were continuous so many sounds. So there are so many monitors, there are so many beeps. If one patient comes in emergency, there is so much of chaos, so much happens in the ICU. Patient's sleep gets disrupted. They say it is like, one patient had told me I was feeling like some train was passing with a beep. So there were so many abnormal things that are happening, and we have to be extremely careful. So there are strict instructions in our ICU that the noise level has to go down during night. Lighting level in patient's room has to go down during the night, and we try to maintain as much as possible their normal sleeping patterns. Sleep disordered patients, I already explained to you, which is known as sleep apnea or obstructive sleep apnea. You might have heard this terminology. And lot of patients who are not aware of these conditions may actually land up in ICU just because of severe accumulation of carbon dioxide in their body and completely altered sensorium or drowsiness. So our brain is very sensitive to hypoxia or drop in oxygen and accumulation of carbon dioxide. So I make it a point to ask the relatives whether this person is napping during the day while watching TV. That itself tells us that the nighttime sleep is not good enough. When we say all this day and night, how is it sensed by us? So obviously the retina plays a very, very important role. You might have heard in the morning talks that the light which falls on retina goes to a nucleus which is called as suprachiasmal nucleus in the brain. And then from there, the whole cycle starts and maintains for 24 hours, because we are literally the slaves of sun, or we are blessed by the sun, whichever way we want to put it. So what happens with blind people? And there is a large body of study about how this chronobiology is maintained in blind people. And actually, they are at great disadvantage. And you can never imagine, you just try yourself to blindfold yourself and stay for 2 to 3 days, and what happens to your original normal chronobiology. Next slide, please. So in next few minutes, we are going to try and we are going to try and make a few points of this understand. Okay. So there are daily profound changes that are happening in our body because of light and the lack of light. So the living world has evolved as with an internal mechanism also. Actually, in 2017, the Nobel Prize which was given for the evaluation or the analysis of circadian rhythm and the molecular level at which the control is achieved. You might have heard about the talk in the morning itself. So it is shown that how much ever we say about day and night, that effect happening through the light or spectrum of light, it is equally true, the next slide please, it is equally true that there are some innate mechanisms. So even if we are kept in the dark room for quite some time, the circadian rhythm will run. So what is chronobiology? It is the study of biological rhythms and their mechanisms. The term is derived from chrono, that is circa, and dime, you know that, you have heard about it. The input and output is through the body clock, which is receiving environmental signals and it sends the coordinated signals regulating the processes from photosynthesis to defense response right from the plant kingdom. Not only plant kingdom, even eukaryocytes and unicellular organisms also follow the circadian rhythm. And then that has got synchronizing advantage, as circadian rhythms enable plants to anticipate environmental changes. So as you can see in the first part of the picture, what is happening to the leaves of the plant. But in the second one, which was a very remarkable exercise done by Irvin Bunning in 1930, where it was shown that there is a genetic predisposition also. So a plant for up to about 1 month kept in the complete dark environment still followed the same behavior as during the day in the day and night cycle. So there are central oscillators which will take us to day and night cycle. Next please. So it is a field that investigates periodic or cyclical biological phenomena and the adaptation of living organisms to natural solar and lunar rhythms. Okay. Next please. I would like to explain this. So as far as human beings are concerned, this is really a very, very important figure. Suppose we start from 6 a.m. Between 6 to 7 a.m., that is the period of sharpest rate of rise of blood pressure. So during night when we are sleeping, the blood pressures are low, respiratory rate is low, even the oxygen concentration goes a bit low. But this is in anticipation of the day that is coming, the rate of rise of blood pressure is highest, and that is why I will show you in the next slide that this is the period where the cardiovascular emergency rate is highest. So strokes can happen, myocardial infarcts can occur, which happens during early times. Right. And then at around 7:30 the melatonin secretion stops. So we wake up and we are still not completely out of the bed, and takes little time to actually be completely aware. But the sunrise and the sun rays are helping all this period. And then there is a likely bowel movement. During the night, bowel also is sleeping. Urinary bladder is also sleeping unless it goes to a certain level of accumulation and the tension within the urinary bladder. Then at 10 o'clock, there is high alertness time. So by that time, we have finished all our morning things. By noon and 2:30, that is the time where there is best coordination. During 2:30 to 3:30, there is a fastest reaction time. So decision making and everything can take place in the best fashion at that time. Until 5 o'clock, there is a greatest cardiovascular efficiency and the muscle strength. So our work output is excellent during that time. In the evening, I do evening practice for my OPD, and I measure blood pressure of a patient and I find it little high. And the patient gets perplexed. I said, no doctor, I checked it in the morning, it was fine. So blood pressure is never constant throughout the day. And it is not a right time for me to check blood pressure and decide my medications when the patient is seen in the evening OPD. So I have to give a little discount before I start increasing my antihypertensive medications. By 7 o'clock, the body temperature is highest. But by 9 o'clock, during this period, gradually the melatonin secretion starts. There are certain people who would want to exercise in the evening other than morning. Evening means late evening, like 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock, and it is actually going to secrete lot of stimulating hormones, and it is going to defy the melatonin secretion, and that is not the right time to exercise. So by 9 o'clock, melatonin secretion starts, and during the night, then the bowel movements are suppressed. Bowel goes off to sleep so that your sleep is not disturbed. If people are complaining of lack of sleep, we have to ask them the history about how many times you have to get up during the night to pass urine, especially in elderly males where the prostatic problems are higher. And that itself is good enough or sufficient enough to disrupt the normal biological rhythm. The deepest sleep is around 2 o'clock. Now that is one point of concern for the doctors like me, because in the ICU, I want all the nurses, doctors to be alert at any given time when they are on night duty. But if we take a round at night, it is extremely difficult to keep oneself awake during those phases, that time, even if they have had enough good sleep during the day, previous day. Because the melatonin secretion and the normal physiology is so much. Initial phases are used to get photographs by supervisors in the hospital that see your doctor is sleeping. And then we really sat down and we discussed that how to adjust this. And then turn by turn, at least you hit the table for some time and take a small nap. That was the only answer, because it is extremely difficult to define the time, the sleep at that time. And then gradually the lowest body temperature is at 4:30, after which gradually the body starts waking up, blood pressure starts rising. So that is our normal circadian rhythm in the human bodies. Next please. The internal clock we have seen is about 24 hours, which is called as circadian clock, which gives us sleep-wake cycle and various hormone secretions, especially the cortisol and melatonin. But there are three other rhythms which are described. One is ultradian rhythm, which is less than 24 hours. For example, you know that during sleep also we go through cycles, REM sleep and non-REM sleep. So deep sleep and little lighter sleep. So these are smaller, and during that the heart rates also vary. Infradian is more than 24 hours. So like for example menstrual cycle or seasonal changes in mood and metabolism that occur. There is also a tidal or lunar cycle described, which is, tidal is basically marine life behavior, and lunar is according to the moon, which affects a subtle behavioral shift which has been proven in emotional changes. Next please. So we have seen all this, and the circadian clock anticipates and adapts our physiology to the different phases of the day. Our biological clock helps to regulate sleep patterns, feeding behavior, hormones and alertness. Next please. But when there is a mismatch between this internal clock and the external surroundings, it can affect the organism's well-being. For example, in humans, which we have seen already, when we experience jet lag or we are working in various shifts, the pilots, for example, or the railway drivers who are on long journeys, it's extremely difficult, and that is why they require the stipulated off time of 2 to 3 days to catch or restore their sleep pattern. And then sleep deprivation and micro sleep, which I told you. So micro sleep is a phenomenon all of us have to understand, that if we haven't slept properly, you know, on Bombay-Pune highway, the accidents occur in early times of the night. And that is where we are extremely under the influence of melatonin itself, and brain is craving for sleep. Even if you sleep for a few seconds, if you are driving at the rate of 90 kilometers an hour and few seconds you lose the control, you know what will happen to the car or what will happen to the vehicle. So micro sleep studies and the sleep studies are very important in chronobiology. Next please. And how is it regulated? The light enters the eyes, the retina detects light, environmental light, and then it signals the suprachiasmal nucleus, the retino-hypothalamic tract. It coordinates its timing, so that is the master pacemaker in the hypothalamus, which is regulating everything. It helps to secrete melatonin by pineal gland or stop secretion of melatonin, or as it was shown in the Nobel Prize winning research, that the gene expression gets activated and deactivated with those two proteins. Okay, and so the daily cortisol peak also is affected, and that is how the cycle goes on. So that is central lock, central clock, environmental cues and the molecular basis. All these comprises the chronobiology in humans. Next please. Yeah. So these are the mapping things which are required. Every human being is not the same, even though grossly what we discussed is the behavior of human beings, but every person may have little different patterns which we have to understand, and then we will have to personalize their own working patterns or medication patterns according to their type. Next please. So you have seen this in the morning, I am sure, the lark personality and the owl personality. The decision making, critical decision making should be scheduled during an employee's personal peak alertness window. So we have to try and analyze this, and productivity also gets impacted because of that. Next, please. So these are the different waves of the brain which correlate with various stages of our alertness. In the beta waves, which are associated with normal waking consciousness with high attention, logic and active problem solving. And I really congratulate you for being here and awake after the lunch, because I'm sure we are in the different phase of these waves. Next, please. So how does it affect in other ways? So there are various implications and applications of these principles in medicine and public health. You have heard about intermittent fasting, and there are certain fed cycles and fasting cycles in our body when the hormones and the cycles completely change. And this is very, very clearly shown that if we give intermittent fasting for about at least 12 hours, preferably 16 hours, but even 12 hours is good enough, and that is why the early dinner is always recommended. Frankly speaking, what is the lifestyle? Lifestyle is what our grandmother told us and what has been followed in our parampara completely. And that affects by reducing inflammation, increasing insulin sensitivity, and by reducing the cardiovascular markers. For example, even the cholesterol levels and LDL levels are high during the peak period, or sleep deprivation will cause a persistent rise in bad cholesterol. Next, please. So this was a case study which was picked up by Shreya, and which is really nice, that by normalizing the lifestyle, how HbA1c can be reduced, how BMI can be reduced, and how the blood pressure was controlled. This was studied in a large group of people with type 2 diabetes. Next, please. So these were the three researchers who got the Nobel Prize in 2017 for physiology or medicine. Next, please. So in that, what were the key discoveries? Identifying the core clock genes central to the clock mechanism. So these were the specific genes called as, they were identified or named as period gene and timeless gene, and the proteins they produce. So they have a negative feedback loop. I'm sure you have seen this in the morning. Perhaps I'm repeating it. These proteins cycle on and off, okay, with a negative loop, creating a 24-hour rhythm. During the day, the period and TIM proteins are produced but are kept at low levels. And at night, as the day ends, these two proteins form a complex that moves into a cell's nucleus, and in the nucleus, they stop a transcription process which stops the production of PER and TIM genes. So as the dawn approaches, exactly the reverse process occurs again. Next, please. We have already talked about the role of light. As you know, that late night use of screen disrupts the biological clock because it's a blue light. And those who are conscious enough or aware enough, they use turning it into orange screen. If you choose, how many of you are using that on the computer? Isn't it? So these light waves are affecting our brain accordingly. So blue light makes us alert, and orange light helps us get melatonin secretion. So these are the natural phenomena. Establishing the biological basis was very importantly done by this research, that circadian rhythms are not just a response to light but are driven by an internal self-sustaining molecular clock also, as we saw in the plants in the first or second slide. But these clocks will get disrupted eventually. Next, please. This was a beautiful article about study of melatonin. These days, actually, I have started using melatonin as a supplement in a large number of patients. First, we started using it just to overcome the jet lag, but now even age-related insomnia. So we will just see the important points in that. Next, please. It's not seen. Or you go out of presentation mode. No, this is not the slide. Go out of presentation mode. let it be, let it be. So, melatonin is from bacterial origin. It has been there in the nature right from unicellular organisms. So, this melatonin synthesis that is maintained in all plant and animal cells containing mitochondria and chondroplasts. So, it is a universal thing. It was in a pioneering research, it was shown that melatonin synthesis is produced or synthesis happens in the pineal gland in all vertebrates by activating two receptors which are named as MT1 and MT2. Melatonin entrains circadian rhythms. It regulates seasonal reproduction and retinal physiology and initiates sleep. So, in all the vertebrates, melatonin is extremely important for circadian rhythm. Chemical properties of melatonin itself as a free radical scavenger also have been identified. So, its in vitro assays hint to additional non-receptor mediated properties of melatonin as a cellular antioxidant as well. Neurodegenerative diseases, which has become a major issue in the society these days. Age is increasing, longevity is increasing, but neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's are also increasing, and which is a challenge for our aging society. A pioneer of melatonin biology and its clinical translation mentioned that beneficially melatonin can be used. It can be used as a hypnotic, chronobiotic, cytoprotective agent to improve the sleep latency and alleviate sundowning to stabilize biological rhythms. This itself will help to reduce the incidence of degenerative processes in the human being. Next please. So neuronal deaths also will get reduced. But having said this, as I mentioned, what happens to blind people? And there are lots of studies about chronobiology in blind people as well. So in most people, the circadian rhythm is slightly longer than 24 hours and it is adjusted daily to the solar rhythm of 24 hours according to the environmental cues. So in winter, perhaps we feel sleepy earlier or we feel little depressed, especially the winter where in other countries the sun goes down by 5 p.m. itself. Okay. So daily retinal exposure to light is needed to adjust the circadian rhythm to 24 hours. But blind individuals with no light perception develop circadian desynchrony, what is called as circadian desynchrony. And most blind individuals report that a non-24 hour sleep-wake rhythm disorder affects them more than blindness because they cannot concentrate, they cannot behave normally physiologically. And the treatment of totally blind patients suffering from non-24 hour sleep-wake rhythm disorder, the first line management is of course behavioral counseling and trying to bring them into a regular cycle even though they can't see, but otherwise use melatonin or melatonin agonists. Next please. Yeah. So the insulin and blood sugar, obesity, everything depends on circadian rhythms. So there is large number of papers which talk about this, and the promising therapeutic strategies targeting circadian disruption for diabetes and its complications are large. So the pharmacological treatment is one of the things, but non-pharmacological treatment is also equally important for diabetics, especially with obesity. So that helps to improve the lifestyle adjustments. So they can be given light therapy and with light therapy exercise so that they don't feel drowsy during that period. And then time restricted feeding. So only 8 hours the food is available to them and not more than that. Sleep interventions, scheduled activities and combinations of all this will help diabetics to improve. Next please. This is the slide which is showing us how the normal behavior, normal changes in blood pressure in 24 hours are observed. The systolic blood pressure on the top and diastolic BP. So you can see that 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. is the maximum rate of rise of blood pressure. And as I mentioned to you, this graph is showing us that in morning hours, the hourly frequency of onset of MI and stroke is the highest. So when we are titrating antihypertensives for these patients, we have to decide by 24-hour monitoring of the patient, which is called as Holter BP monitoring, what should be the correct timing of giving antihypertensive tablet, or whether we need to give it 2 times a day. Next please. And this is the correlate, these are the correlates of blood pressure changes. The heart rate also follows similarly, because the adrenaline and noradrenaline is highest during that period. Core body temperature starts rising, and you can see the melatonin is there during the night period. This this slide is showing us that LDL cholesterol and cortisol is also very high during the same time. Next please. So one of the important things is in modern pharmacology and medicine, right drug, right dose and right time. So right time is correlating it with the circadian rhythm. Next please. Mitigating jet lag and shift work disruption is a major public health problem these days. So what are the challenges and what are the strategic mitigations that we should try? Long-term shift works increase risk of metabolic disorders and cancer. Shift workers face chronic fatigue and gastrointestinal issues. There are people who come to me as patients with severe acidity, acid regurg, reflux. And when they are on night duty, the person was telling me, I can never forget that patient, that when I go to duty, I report to duty, and then I go to cafeteria, and around 10 p.m. I will eat a plate of biryani. And then the whole night I will work. And these are the wrong things for the body itself. But mitigating this also is a very difficult thing, because when you have to keep awake, you have to have certain interventions for attentiveness during the period as well. Jet lag impairs cognitive function, memory and concentration for days. Next please. So how to actually assess this, and how the HR of the organization should help people to overcome this. So there can be peak time for cardiovascular events, so we have to make the workers, employees aware of these things. Or midnight vulnerability also is to be told to them. I remember when I was studying in the UK, if I was traveling by the bus at night, the driver was allowed to take 2 hours off, and we were sitting in the bus and he would take a nap. Because this was actually brought into practice over there, I could see. And that is why perhaps there are always 2 pilots in the flight. Next please. So there are certain mitigations which we can do is controlled light exposure. As I told you, in ICU, we try to reduce the lighting during the night time, even though we are working. Melatonin supplementations, we have been using melatonin supplementation a lot, because these are not habit forming, and these are just the natural molecules which are useful. And sometimes if you have to work, then caffeine and intermittent naps are important, because you cannot avoid the work. We can never say, ICU doctor soya tha, patient ko subah aane ko bolo. We can never say that. Next please. And this is the cost of misaligned rhythms, and which we are seeing a lot in our society. The obesity, increased cardiovascular diseases and increased mental health diseases as well, and increasing incidence of PCOS, which is ovarian dysfunction. So everything relates to overall lifestyle disorders, in which circadian rhythm disorders are very important. Next please. So in employee wellness programs, to make them aware of this is very important. We have already talked about hypertension. We have to make them aware of wellness. We have to make them aware that asthma can actually worsen during the night. So at night, before you are coming to work, take your asthma medications. Peptic ulcers. Typically these patients will wake up or get severe pain around 2 o'clock in the midnight or post midnight, because that is the time where the food or the acid enters duodenum, and the peptic ulcer will start manifesting with pain. Next please. So personalized work schedules are very important. Meeting times should be organized accordingly. Task assignments can be personalized as well, and enhanced wellness programs will make all of them happy. Next please. I think we are coming to the end. Next please. So we have to bring these chronobiologic principles in our daily lives, for personal use also, for organizational use also, and as a doctor or healthcare personnel to educate the society also. And to maintain these lifestyles according to the chronobiology is going to go a long way to mitigate these public health problems. Next, please. So I thank you for not having siesta after the lunch and being attentive for the talk. Thank you.
So we may have some questions, or clarifications. So if anybody have, so you are welcome to ask.
Madam, what do you see the main hindrance for mainstreaming the chronotherapy in the allopathic practices?
It is the modern challenges of the lifestyle and the occupation.
Basically, who can avoid night duty? Basically, who can avoid night travels? Hindrance in what sense? I didn't get your question.
Chronotherapy.
Chronotherapy.
Therapy in the allopathic practices.
But we are doing it.
We are doing it.
Yes, we are doing it. We are recommending it, and we are doing it. Obviously, Ayurveda has got a very, very deep thought in it. I am not an Ayurvedic practitioner, or I haven't studied from that point of view. But that obviously tells us about the lifestyle, no doubt about it. But making people aware and trying to find out solutions and trying to adapt the medications and the work schedules around the chronotherapy, the chronobiology is the thing.
You said melatonin is not habit forming.
Yeah.
And the other medicines are habit forming.
The mechanisms of action are different.
No,
No?
I'm just asking that whether they really do affect the biological clock, the habit forming drugs.
Habit forming drugs are not making us biologically, chronobiologically attuned. Those are different mechanisms. They're totally different receptors in the brain. For example, diazepam. So they are different, totally different ones. Yes.
What are the side effects of melatonin?
Melatonin has
tablets?
no. There are no side effects of melatonin because it has got around 12 hours maximum life. Half life is around 6 hours, and it is naturally metabolized in the body.
So, what should be the timing of melatonin tablet?
About half an hour before your scheduled time of sleep, but scheduled time of sleep should be around 10 o'clock.
So, because nowadays it is available in form of gummies also in the pharmacy.
It is available gummies, it is available as sublingual sprays also.
So, is it doctor is necessary, which prescription is necessary to take melatonin?
No, it is not necessary.
Anybody can take
Yes,
it.
yes. It is like a health supplement. Yeah, over the counter medicine.
I mean, ICU doctors are like one of the worst affected by disruptions. But given your experience and most other ICU specialists also, for 30 years, 40 years, there seems to be no apparent degeneration physiologically.
And the time will tell, perhaps.
I mean, it is enough time, right? So if it would have been so disruptive, it would have been very apparent. And that is also why most people actually overlook the effects, because it doesn't have any apparent degenerative effect for the lifestyle of people doing that. Unless they are overdoing it nowadays, of course they are accelerating it. So
No, actually, when I was a student, we were overdoing it because there were no regulations for that. But it has become a norm internationally now that total working hours for a doctor should be 48 hours in a week. So nowadays it is followed. So even after doing a night duty, they get enough time off. So that is followed.
I think those safety standards should move on to other professions as well.
Yes.
Where IT,
Yes.
for example,
Yes.
one of the worst affected
Worst
would be IT
affected,
people
yes.
who are
Global
actually
times, working at global
and
times.
things like that. So,
Absolutely.
so those recommendations.
But to my knowledge, because some of my friends are working at Infosys HR, for example, definitely looks at it. That how many hours of work have been put in, not necessarily at night, but even total hours of work. And then the group leader, whosoever it is warned that this person is overworking. But in our country, I think all of us are overworking. It was always my dream to have 5 days a week, but we never had it. But I think we are adapting.
Yeah, please. Margot?
question, can you please elaborate a little more on intermittent sleep and micro sleep as you were discussing? I'd like to know a little
Yeah.
more.
Right. So, sleep apnea, it is basically studied much more in sleep apnea, obstructive sleep apnea as it is called. Huh? So, obstructive sleep apnea can happen either as a central or at the throat level, obstruction at the nasal and throat level. So, more common is throat level. People who are getting severe allergies, nasal allergies, ultimately they start getting their nasal structures hypertrophied because of inflammation, or the tonsils are large, or there are other lymphoid tissues here which are large, or obesity causes actual deposition of fat. And when we sleep in supine position, so at that time the patella and the uvula also drops, the tissues become very lax, and all this actually causes the obstruction or narrowing of the airway, and that is why the ventilation reduces in the body, and that is why enough oxygen is not taken in and enough carbon dioxide is not thrown out. So when it goes to certain level, there is a safety mechanism in the brain, so brain wakes up. So we don't see the person waking up as such, but the level of brain, that those alpha waves, beta waves, delta waves, what we see, so, or the REM sleep, deep sleep, that period is lost, and that is why there is not enough quality sleep for the brain. And you know, even for 1 or 2 days we don't get enough sleep, we become, you know, so much of craving for sleep is there, restorative sleep is required. So in such patients, during the day their brain is continuously craving for sleep, and so whenever the appropriate time, it dozes off. So while driving also, if you are going at a monotonous speed, then the brain dozes off. So that these are called as micro sleep periods. And that is when means you are actually driving at that speed, but you don't have control, and then anything can happen within 30 seconds also.
Okay. So, thank you very much, Jan. So it was a wonderful talk, and we have, you know, many things came to learn about the chronobiology, and this is something, the topic which is usually ignored. So I am the first time, you know, coming in such a workshop or conference. So thanks for the organizers for this is actually timely taken decision, and a very good topic. Others should also actually follow. When I was, you know, reading the title, so the first few seconds, what is this? So because I'm not used to, you know, to listen or read the titles like that, but you have organized. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Prachee Sathe, for this particular talk on chronobiology and putting up the public health perspective in front of everyone. Because being a doctor and being a ICU, you are the best person. Basically, we thought that you can put up, because you must be having lots of experiences and which you already shared with us. Dr. Naveen Kumar sir, we thank you for chairing this particular session, and also you also gave some scientific aspects to see this particular subject from the view of viruses. Exactly. So probably that could be the scientific insights what we have got. So this is the second scientific insight. What the first one was microbiome, and now this is the next thing. So definitely we can have some research on this particular topic later in, in Behaviour Foundation as well. So thank you both of you. Now I request Dr. Girish Tillu to come forward and felicitate Dr. Naveen Kumar sir. I request Dr. Vijay Gadgil sir. Gadgil sir is advisory member of Behaviour Foundation to come forward and felicitate Dr. Prachee Sathe.
But I really congratulate Behaviour Foundation for this innovation, incubation and innovation,
Yes.
and actually bringing it to
Yes.
practice.
Practice. or okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so what we will do is we know that everybody has this program schedule with you also. So we are running out of time. What we will do is we'll start directly the next session and then we will take a break. Something like that we will do so that we can have some yeah. So you people please be here. They want to take photo.
Group photo. Sure. Sir, थोड़ा पुढे